Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Blankenberg and welcome to the session on what is the future of ambient computing. I work as our Chief Technical Evangelist here at Alexa, and I spend a ton of my time thinking about what makes the best experience for developers, what makes the best experience for customers, and I want to make sure that I share with you our future vision. What do we think about the future of ambient computing and where are we headed? So as I said, I work on the Alexa team. I want to make sure that that's really clear. We're plugged into all of these things here, but I also want to make sure that I qualify all of this with a great big disclaimer. And the reason for this great big disclaimer is because I'm not making promises that are in the near term. I'm not making promises about feature announcements that are coming next year. We're talking about 5 to 10 years down the road. I'm very excited about this future, but I also want to make sure that I temper all of that by saying that this is not a promise for tomorrow. So let's talk about the future for just a second. This is not a promised future. In fact, many of the things that I'm going to talk about today are very likely to not happen in our lifetime. But it's exciting to think about where we can head, where we might be able to go with all of this technology. So with that, let's talk about dreaming for a second. Because as we look at the world from the big picture, as we look at how things might be in a far-off future, there's so much to take in. But at the core of all of it, at the core of everything that we think about when it comes to ambient computing and our futures and how that integrates with technology, the big thing in all of it is people. If you think about everything you do, people are important. People are the reason we go to work. People are the reason for pretty much anything we do anymore. People are interesting. Without people, life is pretty boring. It's a pretty meaningless place without people. Imagine for a second that you're the last person on Earth. Now, I know there's many of you that might think, boy, that sounds pretty good. But honestly, after we live like that for just a little while, you realize that your entire life is just based on survival. And none of the people that give you any kind of energy or life or anything are around to share that with you. This talk, specifically, is around technology and those people. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about a few of the ways that this technology has already fundamentally changed our lives. I want to start with the most stress-inducing image I can possibly imagine. The incoming call on your phone. How does that make you feel today? When you think about getting a call on your phone, how many of you are like, oh, I'm so glad this person's calling me? Even if it's a close friend or family member, most of the time, that's not something we want. How about when you're leaving and you are talking with someone and they're like, hey, I'll call you later. I mean, that feels like a foreign concept anymore. Don't call me, text me. Send me a message, make it asynchronous, make it easy for me to do that, right? I don't want your phone call. You can just text me, bro, right? So why are we so averse to talking to someone on the phone? We could probably come up with dozens of reasons why we don't like an incoming call, but the biggest reason has to do with our time. Asynchronous communication allows us to do what we want, when we want, without interruption. This is a new requirement for our lives. When I was a kid, a ringing phone was an infinite number of possibilities. Someone wants to talk to me. Amazing. It's gotten so bad that these phones we carry around with us, the phone is the functionality we care about the least. Let's use another example. Have you ever heard the phrase, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree? You're sitting around with your friends and someone asks a question, right? Maybe it's some kind of trivia. We'll use this as an example. What actor or actress has won the most Academy Awards? Now, you might know this off of the top of your head, but maybe you don't. So we're sitting back at that table, we're all having a conversation, and nobody knows the answer. In the past, we might have to agree to disagree on this one. Lots of disagreements went unresolved. Some of you are probably even looking up the answer on your phone right now. If you can't help yourself and you really need to know, here we go. Katharine Hepburn has 4 Academy Awards. There are a bunch of other people with 3, but if you look at this list, many of them might have been your first choice. You had to look up the answer. You had that need to know. And this is a new problem we have in our lives. People weren't running to the library to look up statistics like this in the past. They'd rather just say, I guess we'll never know, or we'll never be able to look that thing up. But with the advent of the internet and cell phones and technology and ambient computing and voice devices, it's so easy for us to just stand in our kitchen and say, what was the score of that game yesterday? Or who has the most touchdowns in NFL history, right? Those kinds of things are very easy for us to discover and find, and so we don't let them drop anymore. We have to know. We have to continue to fill that knowledge gap. So as we talk about spending our free time, now we spend it looking things up or dissuading arguments. Before that, we had a lot of other interests, a lot of other things that we used to do, right? There are a lot of people that are very into being an athlete. They dedicate their free time and energy to getting bigger, faster, stronger. We have artists, right? Others spend their time creating all sorts of new art. They dream about what could be, and then they create art that inspires others. I have several friends that have gotten deep into woodworking in their free time, certainly over the past 2 years. They make beautiful chessboards and tables and shelving, all just with their hands and a bunch of amazingly expensive tools. But it's a hobby. It's something that they choose to spend their time doing. It's something they want to fill their free time with. Something that's near and dear to me, and probably all of you, is technology. I even spend a good portion of my free time building things, writing software for myself or my family, or organizations that I'm involved in, but I spend a lot of that time building new cool experiences with software. But it doesn't have to be just technical, and it doesn't have to be things that are physically work either. One of the other things that I've found over our past 2 years is the idea of getting back into baseball card collecting. It wasn't something that I expected to be part of my adult life, but I went through my childhood collection when I had a whole bunch of free time during our lockdown, and discovered I really have a lot of excitement and energy for this. So that is something that I spend my time doing. And for a lot of us, maybe we don't have something specialized like that. Maybe we don't have a special hobby, but a lot of us love this, right? We are in the golden age of entertainment, and it's amazing to me just how much there is to watch. We sit down and we binge TV shows over weekends, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, I would bet you're probably under the average. Did you know that the average American spends over 10 hours a day consuming content? I'm not lying. I'm not making that number up. Between your phone and your laptop and your video game consoles, people are consuming 10 hours of content a day. Now, if they're working 8 hours a day, that means they're only sleeping 6 hours a day, and it's no wonder we're all so exhausted. Anyway, not the point of this presentation, but it's an important thing to point out that we are all choosing to spend our times in many different ways. And there's lots and lots of us, right? We have so many different interests, but we have so much in common too. And those commonalities are people. We're from so many different backgrounds with so much imagination and enthusiasm, but we have one thing more than anything else that is common amongst all humans, and that's stuff. We have so much stuff in our lives, and I don't mean physical belongings. I mean too much to do. There is so much stuff going on. As I'm recording this, I can't even believe the number of meetings that I have scheduled today. It's just astounding. You probably have stuff floating around in your thoughts right now. Some of them probably are amazing or productive or fun. They might even be welcomed, right? I think I have a great idea for something at work, or I can't wait to see my friends on Friday, or when are we sending humans to Mars? Right? Those are all kind of fun, curiosity. Like, I want to spend my time thinking about those things. But on the flip side of that, we also spend a lot of our time in this world. Thoughts that can completely derail our day. How am I going to get this all done? Or when was my last doctor visit? Are my kids doing okay in school? Is my boss happy with my work? Did I leave the oven on? Those are all things that pop into our heads all the time, and they derail the things that we want to be doing. Whether that's going for a run or doing our woodworking, all of a sudden now we have to go solve these other problems because we either need to know the answer or we need to address a problem, and it's chaos inside our brains. So this is where I want you to use your imagination. I want you to take several leaps beyond where most consider ambient computing to be today. I want you to imagine having a personal AI companion, assistant, that can anticipate my needs, give me the information I need at exactly the right moment, and make it significantly easier to focus on what's important. But to do this requires trust. I want you again to use your imagination. And I want you to imagine you just woke up, you walked out of your tent, and you're standing in this beautiful field. The sun is rising over the mountains. You can see little rainbow pinpoints on every stalk of grass in the dew. You take a deep breath in, and I come charging out of the woods towards you. I'm soaked up to my knees, covered in the moisture from the grass. And I tell you that today is the last sunrise. There won't be one tomorrow. How does that make you feel? Do you believe me? Almost certainly not. There's almost nothing that I would be able to do to convince you that the sun isn't going to rise tomorrow. You have far too much historical evidence to tell you that it'll rise exactly like it has every day of your life. So this is how our personal AI will feel to us. Not the crazy person running out of the woods, but that trust, that wholehearted belief that the things that you need to have done are going to be done, trusted, reliable. It would be unconscionable to suggest that it would fail you. But this trust is a responsibility that we as developers, hardware makers, product makers, we need to be hyper-focused on. Let me give you an example of where trust fails us. We've all, at some point, used a set of Bluetooth headphones, or at least most of us have. Do you have the same kind of trust with your headphones that you do with the sunrise? Do they work? Yeah, most of the time they work really well. But when they don't work, you're not surprised. You get frustrated. When something important is unreliable, we tend to use it less. But when it works, oh, it's as good as any beautiful mountain sunrise. Trust is fundamental to any technology. But for something like ambient computing, it is the foundation on which everything else is built. So let's think back to our frustrated selves. Our headphones aren't working, our kids are screaming, the dog is barking. We take the short walk out to the mailbox to just see what was delivered. And what do we find? Bills. And now our brain is racing about how much everything costs. And do we have enough money? There are enough stressors in our daily life, and we are the only ones that can solve them, right? Or are we? Let's talk about this for a second. Because in the vision I want to paint, we don't pay our bills anymore. Now, at face value, that sounds amazing. Yeah, Jeff, of course, I don't want to pay any of my bills. But realistically, the bills get paid. It's just that our personal AI does it for us. And I know what you're thinking. Sometimes I don't have enough money, or I need to move money in a special way. I've got all these very subjective decisions that I need to make about my income and my bills and how I'm going to pay all them every month. I have student debt, I have credit cards. Paying my bills needs to be a very manual process so I can make those decisions for myself. And my question to you is this: do they really need to be manual? And are you the best equipped person to make those decisions? You may be. I'm not arguing with you on this. I just want you to think about it for a second. There are lots and lots of scenarios in the world in which AI is doing a phenomenal job, far better than humans could do. Let's talk about those for a second. Think about the game of chess. 30, 40 years ago, the idea that a computer could beat the best humans at chess was unimaginable. And today, it's almost unbeatable. We have enough artificial intelligence and machine learning models around the game of chess that a human cannot almost ever beat a computer at chess. And if they do, it's often through luck, more than being able to really say that they defeated the machine learning model. It's just moving too many moves ahead. The best chess masters are moving 5, 6 moves ahead. A computer can look at 20, 30 ahead and say, I know what the best move is based on all these possible calculations. We just can't do that as humans. We're just not capable. Another example is the stock market. We may not realize this, but a good number of the trades that are being made in the stock markets today are being made by artificial intelligence. They're buying and selling in very small chunks, at very small increments, sometimes milliseconds. We couldn't possibly do that as humans. But this is how the market is trending today. Lots and lots of algorithms are being written to be able to make those purchases on the fly, on demand. Buy when it's at 1 penny, sell it at 3 pennies, and then just bounce that back and forth all day. You can make a lot of money that way if you're fast enough. And in fact, the New York Stock Exchange had to introduce miles and miles of extra cabling, extra network cabling, just to slow everybody down. Because the rent right around the New York Stock Exchange, the prices were just jumping through the sky, because the only thing that was limiting people from making money was the amount of time it took for that transaction to process. So they would buy buildings close to the stock exchange, run wires directly into it, and they were super fast. And they had to slow everyone down. Now, it's still only milliseconds, but it slows things down enough that it makes it fair for everyone. Being able to do that in fractions of a second, not humanly possible. Another example I like to use is medicine. We've all been to a doctor, we've had a diagnosis for something, maybe it's just headaches or acne, but we've all had some kind of diagnosis about something. And what they found is that AI, over time, has proven to be better and better at diagnosing patients, especially in serious cases, things like cancer, than real doctors. And that's not to take anything away from doctors. I'm not here to say that doctors aren't doing a good job, because they absolutely are. It's just that artificial intelligence models are better. Here's a couple of examples. AI can outperform doctors. Why don't patients trust it? AI outperforms doctors in diagnosing breast cancer. They were actually using the same case files. They were just ingesting it into the system. And what they were able to do is take the subjectivity out of it. They often found that doctors would lean a little more subjectively towards people that were severely overweight and diagnose them more likely with more conditions that seemed like they were borderline or maybe they were close because of that subjectivity. Well, when you have an artificial intelligence model, it doesn't have any subjectivity. It can only operate off the data that's been provided. And so because of that, you find very quickly that the artificial intelligence can make really good decisions. Now, again, that's not to say that it's perfect in every case, but what they are finding is AI is better at predicting certain kinds of diagnoses than doctors. And I think that that's a really interesting thing to consider. But let's take it away from the serious, right? Let's talk about something fun for a second and how AI can apply to it. Think about our sports like baseball. I don't think most of us would agree that subjectivity of an umpire is a good thing in baseball, and most of the players and coaches agree. If you've ever watched a game of baseball recently, you'll notice that on TV they draw a box around where the strike zone is, and you can watch very confidently and say, oh, that was a strike, that was a ball. But you'll notice that sometimes the umpire calls a ball a strike, and sometimes they call a strike a ball. And the argument that players want is something that is consistent. They want to know that there is a consistent box across every umpire, across every game, across every stadium, so that they can train and practice for themselves. Hitting a baseball is one of the hardest skills to accomplish in all of sports. And being able to do it when it's inconsistent, sometimes that one way out there counts against me, and sometimes it doesn't. All of those things become a real problem. And so one of the things that they're looking at in some of the minor leagues of baseball is the idea that they're going to start using artificial intelligence and some laser grids to be able to identify when the ball did and didn't pass through the actual strike zone. And instead of making the umpire make a subjective decision on whether it was in or out of the strike zone, they're going to get a beep in their ear. If it beeps, it was a strike. If it doesn't, it was a ball. That kind of innovation, it's so tiny. The game looks identical to people, but it increases that consistency to an incredible level. The umpires still need to be in the game. They need to be there to call people safe or out at home plate and to manage disagreements and fights that might happen on the field and all the other fun stuff that happens in baseball. But balls and strikes could easily be applied to something like this as well. So let's look at some of the other ways we could apply AI to our personal lives to make things significantly better and to reduce the stress and anxiety that we are constantly fighting. When was the last time you wanted to call your dentist? My father's a dentist, so I have an excuse, but I would think that most of you probably don't. You probably made your next appointment during your previous appointment, right? If it's anything like my dentist, while I'm sitting in the chair, they're like, hey, when do you want to schedule your next appointment? We're going 6 months out, so we're looking at May. Well, I have no idea what my calendar looks like in May, so I just take their appointment. Yeah, 8 o'clock on that Wednesday sounds great. But as we get closer to that, and I start looking at my calendar that has started to fill up, I realize, oh my gosh, I can't make that at all. I've got to get my kids to school. I've got all sorts of things for work I have to do. I'm going to have to reschedule. And so what's the next step? You have to pick up the phone, maybe not this phone, but you have to pick up your phone and you have to make a call. You have to call your dentist and you're going to talk to another person synchronously. You're going to ask them, hey, I need to move my appointment. And then they're going to tell you, oh, okay, well, we have something available next Tuesday. Are you free? And then you have to look at your calendar and say, well, I'm free before 11 a.m. And they say, oh, the dentist isn't until noon. So how's the following week, next Wednesday? And you do this dance where you're back and forth, and you're manually synchronizing your calendars with your voices. Not terribly efficient, not terribly useful, and kind of frustrating. I don't want to handle any of that. When we get into these situations, we start to look at how we can start to solve some of this with technology. And this personal AI companion, this assistant that I'm describing, is perfect for this. They can look at our calendar. They potentially, in a perfect world of data, could look at our dentist calendar. They could talk to our healthcare provider to make sure that it's been at least 6 months. And they could recognize that it's been 6 months since our last dentist appointment and schedule it for us. And we can see it on our calendar, and when we want to change it, we just delete it. Because it'll recognize, oh, he needs a dentist appointment, and it'll schedule one for further into the future. These kinds of little things, these kinds of little time savers really start to add up. I'll give you another awesome example. I want you to imagine that you look at your calendar this week. You got into work Monday morning, and you look at your calendar and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm getting together with some friends on Friday night. That's awesome. People love getting together. People love spending time with their friends. What they don't love, and I'm sure you've all experienced this, is trying to schedule an event with a bunch of other adults. It is nearly the most impossible task that will ever be accomplished by humans ever. I'm saying that facetiously, of course, but the idea is, imagine instead that your assistant talked to your friend's assistant, talked to their calendars, and was able to say, hey, these people are all free on Friday night. And instead of sitting home and watching TV on some streaming service by yourself, instead, you're scheduled to go to the beach and you're the one that's supposed to bring the Funyuns, right? Like that kind of stuff would be amazing. And I think we would all welcome the idea that we could get together with our friends without having to spend all the effort to figure out who and where and when. That kind of stuff can happen. COVID makes this a little weird, but I still think it's one of those things that is super exciting to think about. When I can get together with my friends without having to make all the leaps and hurdles that are required, my life is better because of it. That's what I want. Think about refinancing your house. For those of us that have a mortgage, we know that generally a mortgage is 30 years because you never want to do it again. Going through the mortgage process or even a refinance process is a real pain. Thousands of sheets of paper need to be printed out and signed. You need to have meetings with people. There's all sorts of stuff that go into it it's just chaos. But if we had AI, if we had the capabilities to handle this with an assistant, imagine instead you have a mortgage and your monthly payment is $2,000 a month. I'm just making a number up, but let's say it's $2,000 a month for your mortgage. And one day your assistant pops up and says, hey, I just refinanced your house. Your payment is now $1,700 a month. It's still the same length. Oh my God. That would be the most amazing thing I could ever have. You just saved me $300 a month? How did you do that? Well, the interest rates went down. There was a good offer at this bank that's reputable, so I decided I would refinance your house for you. Of course, they had all of your permission and access to the things that they needed to do that. But I'm not paying attention to mortgage rates on a daily basis, so I'm glad someone is. That would be amazing. If I could get $300 or $500 a month back just because interest rates had changed, that is something that I would be very excited about. In fact, there's lots of technology out there that can help us be more productive, save us time, and reduce stress. Take a look at how many different ways there are to share a shopping list with your household. On your phone alone, there's probably 40 different ways. The technology is all there. We have the capabilities to do this, right? You can talk to Alexa and make a shopping list very, very easily. For the longest time, my wife and I actually had a sheet of paper that hung on the refrigerator, and it still didn't get updated appropriately. Right? As something would run out, you were supposed to write it down. The sheet was even in the list order of our grocery store. So you could go to the back of the store, make your way to the front, and everything was nice and in order. But the reason that this list doesn't work, the reason that our shopping lists don't work, the reason that to-do lists often don't work for us is because so much of our technology requires a somewhat permanent change of human behavior. You've heard this before, right? New mindset, new results. I think this is a hot pile of garbage. We as humans have a really hard time changing. Firmware upgrades don't come very often. It's the reason that New Year's resolutions almost always fail, right? We have all the best intentions, but at the end of the day, changing our behavior is really hard. So if we can't change our behavior, maybe our technology can meet us where we are. That would be awesome, right? To be able to have an AI companion that's looking out for us, making our life easier and more natural and not asking us to fundamentally change how we approach the world. It's not about building better habits. It's about meeting you where you are and providing you the information you need in a way that makes sense for you. We'll revisit that shopping list in a second, but let me just start with a simple example of a garage door. One of the common questions that you might ask yourself when you drive away off to work or to the grocery store or wherever is, did I leave the garage open? Today, there are lots of apps and technology that make it easier for you to check the current state of your garage door, right? You can add a little device, or maybe you have a smart garage door opener that can monitor all that for you. You open the app, you ask Alexa, you've got your answer. But if you're prone to forgetting to close the garage door, aren't you also prone to forgetting to check it later? This is why I'm excited about ambient computing, because it allows me to meet me personally where I need it the most. So let's take a picture of my garage, right? This is what my garage looks like. I only wish my garage looks nothing like this. But my garage learns from me. It uses context. It's proactive. It notices that I left the house and says, hey, I noticed you just left, but the garage is open. I've closed it for you. Let the technology be the behavior change that we can't. It might also be possible to say, hey, I noticed you're driving away. You left the garage open. Do you want me to close it? Well, in this case, no, I don't want you to actually, because my kids are going to be home in 5 minutes and I left it open for them to get in. In other times, yeah, of course I want you to close the garage. I live by myself, or you can see that the other person that lives with me is also not home. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's that context that becomes the big part of this. right? Now, I don't want to segment groups here, but I'm guessing a lot of women have probably encountered a curling iron or a hair dryer or a hot iron or something like that for their long hair when they're trying to make it look beautiful. And in those cases, this is a fire hazard if we leave it plugged in, potentially, right? We don't want to leave these things plugged in, except at the times we don't, except at the times that we're actually using them. And so there's lots of amazing tools to make your hair look good, but most of them get pretty hot when they're plugged in. So how do we manage a simple device like this? Most of them are not going to have any kind of smart sensors or technology built right into them. But I can't tell you the number of times that my wife and I have had to turn around because we can't remember whether or not we unplugged the hot iron before we left. That's not a problem. It was actually an easy solution. We just plug it into a smart plug, and then we can turn that smart plug on and off. I actually named our smart plug Fire Hazard as kind of a funny joke. But that smart plug solves the problem today. But in the future, this could be solved with sensors, with smart fuse boxes, so that we can actually turn individual outlets on and off without the use of a light switch or a smart anything. But instead, the house itself is smart enough to recognize what's going on and help us solve those problems. So back to that shopping list. It's not all about just things in your home like your garage door opener or your hot iron. When we think about that shopping list, we're constantly curating this list so that when we decide to go to the store, we have a complete list of what we need, right? One of the first things that ambient computing can solve for us is this behavior change. The future of kitchens, of refrigerators, and pantries will be reliable sensors and cameras that can detect when food is about to go bad, when you're low on something, or when your 7-year-old just finished the milk without telling anyone. Now, this can be solved in two different forms, right? The first way is through proactive notifications, and we have a lot of this in our lives today. You've run out to pick up your daughter from track practice, and you receive a notification that you're out of milk because your 7-year-old drank it while you weren't there. At this point, you can decide whether you want to stop at the store on the way home because you're going to need some milk for dinner or potentially for tomorrow's breakfast. Or, you know what, I'm going to be going to the grocery store tomorrow anyway, I'll just pick up some then. But you have the knowledge and the information you need to be able to make those decisions. When we're away from our home, it's very hard for us to know what's going on. And if some status changes, we have no way of knowing until we get home. And then it's like, do I really want to run back out just to do that? Those little things are great. So that's one solution, right? Just proactive notifications. But we also have the possibility of just having the refrigerator order it for us, right? It's talking to my grocery store. It's getting milk at the price that I want. And it says, hey, you know what? They're out of milk. I'm going to get more milk delivered. And also they're out of tomatoes and pineapples. So I'm going to get that stuff for them as well. We see this technology in lots of other places today, like printers and coffee makers. It uses a technology called Amazon Dash. Now, I'm not here to talk about Amazon Dash at length, but the idea is that we are starting to see lots and lots of devices that can help refill all of their consumable products, right? Whether that's laundry detergent or light bulbs or batteries for your smoke detectors. All of these things can start to be handled by the devices themselves. I was amazed the first time printer ink showed up at my house. It was just as I was printing something and I had run out of ink. It was uncanny just how good the timing was because I needed more ink, and the hassle of having to stop everything I'm doing and go get more was frustrating. So solving this problem with technology, meeting me where I am, I'm going to need more ink for that printer, so get it for me before I run out. That's just the beginning of these capabilities, though. Running out of important things is bad. Let's get more proactive. I'm an early riser most days. I like to be productive in the mornings so that I don't feel bad about being exhausted later in the day. You hop in your car and you ask your GPS to get you to the store you need to get some supplies from. Today, without proactively researching it, there's a good possibility that your GPS will have no problem navigating you there. But it won't give you a single warning about the fact that that store doesn't open for 2 more hours. So you drove all the way to the store to get the things you need, but it doesn't open till 10 a.m. There's nothing worse than spending all of that time and effort only to find it wasted. In the future, your car will be able to warn you about these kinds of things before you even pull out of your garage. Oh, you're heading to that store? It actually doesn't open for a little while. You might want to wait. That would be unbelievable. On top of this, being in our car and talking to our devices is going to become something that is far more normal and capable in our lives. This is why the Voice Interoperability Initiative is so important. There will be ambient computing services for everything in our lives, and they each need to communicate with us and with each other. Buying an independent device to speak with each individual voice assistant doesn't make any sense, and it's the reason we believe so strongly in this initiative. In a world with multiple voice services, each with different capabilities, we believe customers should have the freedom to choose their preferred service for any task. That's why you see different assistants in cars and in homes and in stores. It's not about having your assistant be able to do everything. It's about being able to have your assistant communicate with the services and the assistants that make the most sense. So your car might have its own assistant. And if you ask it how much gas is in the car or to navigate to a place, great, your car can handle all of that. But if you ask your car what the current status of your garage door is, well, that might be something Alexa knows instead. And so it says, actually, I'm going to get Alexa for you. And Alexa pops up and says, hey, actually, the garage door is open right now. Do you want me to close it? Those kinds of things are fundamental to how this works. Imagine instead a world where each device has to do its own thing. And so on the dashboard of your car, you have a small Alexa device or a number of other voice assistants for all of the services that you consume. That sounds like chaos to me. What we want instead is to have all of these devices work together, multiple voice assistants on the same device, so that you can communicate with the services and the products that you need at the time you need them. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of really cool scenarios and opportunities. Now I want you to think about living in that world, a world where we don't have to worry about the minutia. We don't have to trade 6 emails just to determine the time to have a phone call later. Where we don't need to drive across town only to find out that the store is sold out of your favorite cookies. That would drive me crazy. It's where life happens when and where it should, without you needing to plan and execute every last bit of it. This is the promise of voice today. This is why I work on the Alexa team. It's because I'm so excited about what this future brings us. And this is why we always say it's still day one. Skills, the apps that you see on devices today for Alexa, they're just the beginning of our journey to our own personal AI companion. They can handle a lot of data for us, they can make queries, they can solve a lot of problems for us. But there's also things like bad jokes and random facts and fart sounds and all sorts of things. And the ability to assemble and grow our own personal AI to handle the things that we love and enjoy, that's a future I'm really looking forward to. So we all live in a highly connected world. And with AI saving us the time and hassle of the mundane, taking all of that cruft away from us so that we can focus on the things that are most important to us, whether that's exercising or being an artist or woodworking or writing software or whatever your hobby happens to be. That's a future I want to be a part of. Being able to create amazing new things with newly found time, I think we're on the right path. So with that, I want to say thank you. I hope you learned a little bit of something today. I hope that the wheels are spinning and that you've come up with some super amazing new idea that you want to go build. But if you want to reach out, if you want to talk with me, my name is Jeff Blankenberg. I am Jeff Blankenberg on every social media platform, everywhere. Feel free to reach out. Send me a DM. I'd love to chat. I want to hear your ideas. And with that, thank you.